Okay. I'll bring it in.
Alrighty. 3, 2, 1.
All right, three, two, one.
This is Natural Powerlifting Radio. Deadlifts, chicken nuggets, video games. This is Check My Total, a powerlifting podcast with Timothy Payne and Andrew Hinson.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Check My Total podcast. In this episode, he has finally decided to grace us with his presence. The one and the only, the Big Kahuna.
Woo!
The Big Kahuna,
Whoa!
Noah Wallace, has finally graced us on the Check My Total podcast. What's going on, Noah?
Not much. I feel honored to finally be here.
The Big Kahuna is showing up. If you don't know how he got that name, me and Noah were roommates in college for the majority of our time in college, and well, at least the majority of my time. Noah was there for a while, but Noah started. We started this whole YouTube channel with the Big Kahuna, and we called Noah the Big Kahuna. And it kind of caught on, and the whole campus knew him by the Big Kahuna. Some people didn't even know his name. They didn't even know he had a name. They just called him the Big Kahuna, and he started YouTube channel, and it went viral.
It was pretty crazy, but I'm definitely honored to be a part of Check My Totals. I've listened to a couple podcasts before, so
There we
Okay.
go.
y'all do a pretty good job.
Hey, we'll take it.
And then Timmy here designed the logo for the Big Kahuna Adventures, our YouTube channel back in the day.
I keep waiting for a comeback episode.
I know. Who knows? There might be coming one soon.
Dun,
Whoa.
dun, dun.
You got something in the works?
I don't know. Let's first start off with a shout out to Andrew over here. Andrew got engaged recently, so let's give a big clap to him, man.
Woo! And by recently,
right.
we mean like 2 days ago.
Yep, so I'm getting hitched. I got to plan a wedding. There's a lot of things that go into wedding planning. But I'm going to let Becca handle most of that.
That's a good choice.
Like I said, you get the rehearsal dinner down pat, you be fine.
That's true. I got to get that. That's my main thing is figure out this rehearsal dinner. I know we going to try and have cheeseburgers, my boys. Cheeseburgers. We'll see what I can get going.
You should try to reserve Greenbrier. That's what I would do.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Ooh, I wonder how much I got to pay him to do that.
I don't know. You can keep that in mind, though.
You should have like a weightlifting competition at the rehearsal dinner.
I should get Iron Boy to put on a meet.
Iron Boy Catering.
So we could do that. We could have a powerlifting meet during the wedding.
During the reception, after you get hitched.
Yeah.
You have to lift in your tuxedo.
That. But Noah was pretty athletic back in the day, back in the college days. He was pretty experienced. But Noah, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone kind of what you did in college, athletic wise.
Well, I ran in college and all throughout my life basically from about middle school through college. I ran cross country and track. If you guys don't know what cross country is, let me explain it to you a little bit. Most people think that is the same thing. Cross country is actually a race that either 3 miles or 5 miles with hills and other type of terrain. You run it like in the woods, in open fields, different places. So on a track, you just run around a circle. And a track is only 400 meters long. So a mile
and it's smooth.
Yes, and it's smooth, flat. So a mile on a track would be 4 laps on track, most likely, unless you have a smaller track. a lot of the indoor tracks are a whole lot smaller, so it changes depending on the indoor track. But with cross country, you have to train differently than track, I would say. Track is a lot more shorter distance, and you focus more on more speed. In cross country, I would say you would focus more on the actual distance. Speeding up and down in the middle of the race, I would say. You have spurts where you have to kick it in the middle of the race.
Yeah. So like for track, go ahead.
I was going to ask, for the competitions, do you know what you're getting into before you actually start to run? Like, do you have like a practice lap around the track or anything like that?
Yes. And both in cross country and track, usually when I'm competing, or when I did compete, we would get there a day before the meet and practice on the actual course. Whether it was on a track, we'd run around a track. With track, it's very similar. Most tracks are very similar, unless you have an old track. Old tracks are terrible. They're not as rubberized. All the modern tracks has good rubber, good traction for cleats and spikes. But with cross country, we would always get there a day before and look at the course. Sometimes the course changes depending on the weather and other accommodations. Like you can't, when you're planning out races, you can't plan for rain sometimes and all a muddy course. So sometimes you get to a course and you expect it to be dry and not many mud puddles, but it happens to be that way because of the weather.
But y'all run it either way.
We do run it either way.
Okay.
There ain't no cancellations.
There isn't, but if there's lightning, they delay usually for lightning.
Okay.
So what is the like? So if it's raining and it's muddy and people are running, like, what is like? How does that affect the time? Like, what's the average like? I don't know, like the difference between someone running a sunny day versus it being wet and muddy. Like, how much time does that take off generally of someone finishing?
I would say it probably affects them a good bit. I'd say at least a minute off their time.
Wow.
It might affect some runners more than others. It just depends, I would say, on how good of a runner you are first off, and how mentally tough you are. That's something we haven't addressed yet. Mental toughness is another big thing in running, just like it is in weightlifting. You could go, I'm sure, with weightlifting, go in there every day and not get stronger, just lift the same type of weights. It's the same thing with running. It's more of an independent sport, so you're on your own a lot, and people sometimes don't know when you could work harder. So it's all inside you. You push yourself to go harder when you need to.
Yeah, we talked about that some.
Yeah, I just tried to jog around the track yesterday at the Y, and I made it like half a lap or something. But
half a lap?
Yeah, I ain't got no air, man. I suck when it comes to.
Wait, the one upstairs?
No, outside, like.
Oh, the gravel.
Down at the bottom. So it's like 3 laps is a mile or something. So I did like, I don't know, quarter of a mile. Anyway, but you talked about that mental stuff. That tears me up worse than anything trying to run. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, it's hard. The mental stuff is, I'll tell you, it really messes with you sometimes, especially when the weather affects your running. For example, I've ran in some pretty crazy races across my life where it's been raining, it's been like 30, 40 degrees out.
Sure.
So one of those days where you just want to be inside the whole day, yet you're stuck outside.
Hey, what is the worst course that you've ran? Like condition wise?
Condition wise, as I was saying, there was one I think it was. I'm trying to think. It was in a November race. I remember in college. It was, as I was saying, it was so cold outside. Wind chill probably was at nearly 20 right there. So and we were running against or whatever for the towards the wind. So it was harder to run because it was 30, 40 degrees outside. Wind chill was like 15, 20, and it was a lot of hills, and it had just rained.
Oh man.
How long is a cross country season? Like, how many courses do you do?
It depends. Usually a cross country season is between 6 and 7 races, I would say, but it goes from, I would say, mid-August to November.
Okay. So it is cool when y'all are out there.
Yes. By the time November hits, it's cool. On the other side of things, it can be sometimes really hot.
Yeah, I guess August is usually really hot for where
Yeah.
we live at in the south.
Yes, definitely. I've been in a few races in August, early September, where it's been insanely hot. For example, one of my last in my senior year of college, one of my last races there in September, they had like 4 or 5 races that day, but they had to cancel one of them because kids were falling down left and right, dehydrated. And this was a college race. This wasn't any high school or middle school. These were college athletes. So that's crazy to think about, like that.
Wait, where was that at? Was that Union or not Union?
It was in Illinois, actually.
Oh, it was the great declining state of Illinois. The great declining.
I apologize to all of our listeners in Illinois.
We gotta tell a story about when me and Noah went to Illinois one time.
Well, go ahead.
But why were we up there? Why were we there, Noah?
We were going to see a Cardinals game.
That's right. So we went to go see a Cardinals game with one of our friends named Jordan, and we ended up, Jordan knew this person in Illinois, which, from St. Louis isn't terribly far away, but it was a little bit further than I thought. But we ended up going to Illinois, and we meet this man. He's an old man, and his wife, and I don't even remember how Jordan knew him. Probably some like church relationship or something.
Yeah.
But we go into this old man's house, and we sit down at this table, and like the first thing he starts talking about is how the state of Illinois is in a declining state, and all the population's moving out, and there's no money coming in, and the taxes are terrible, and there's no young people in the state anymore. And I was like, man, this state is sinking.
It must be, but I mean, they just did produce a president a few years ago.
Who?
Barack Obama was a senator in Illinois before he became president.
Oh. I don't keep up with no politics. I don't know.
We're definitely not a political podcast.
Yeah, we don't know nothing about politics. But the declining state of Illinois, man, that was something. And he didn't have like any air conditioning, or it was hot in that house, man. It was a rough time. That was my only memory of Illinois. So if you grew up there and you actually have fond memories, then you should prove us wrong. But man, what a state.
Yeah, the state of Illinois. Wow, I've had some really bad races in that state across my life.
I'm telling you, it's a declining state. They have the worst courses. They've got potholes in the middle of their grass.
I'm telling you, it was at Principia College, and it was like right there next to the Mississippi River. It was very pretty. It was in Elsa, Illinois. So that was cool. And here, go ahead.
Where all have you traveled for cross country?
I've traveled to Missouri, Illinois, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, Kentucky. I never had a race in Georgia. I really wanted to race in Georgia. Never got that far. So we just stayed in this region. We never went to much of East Tennessee. I mean, farthest east we went out was somewhere in Knoxville. So we never hit the Carolinas or Georgia or Florida.
So for cross country, is it a rule to where you have to actually run through country, or can it be like a marathon or something where you're running around downtown or something like that?
I would say, I mean, they don't do road races, I would say, in cross country, at least for college and high school.
Okay. I was just wondering if that was the actual rule.
Yeah, which brings me to another thing. Road races is a big thing when you get out of college. I've seen a lot of different college athletes from other schools. They get into road races after they graduate college because they enjoy running so much they just don't want to give it up at age 22, 23. They want to keep on running for a while. So they join different running clubs. I know in big cities, even probably smaller cities, they have specific running clubs where there's a big thing almost every weekend. I know in the state of Tennessee, there's different big competitions throughout the year for those running clubs. And then there's the big marathons, half marathons, such as the St. Jude Marathon and Half Marathon.
So these road races, okay, so you graduate college. Is there any professional, like, league or, like, running league, cross-country thing, anything like that? Or is it just these road races?
I think, there's a road race organization that's a professional league, more or less. I mean, if you want to talk about more professional, I mean, you talk about people trying to qualify for Olympics. Those are people who are in college, right out of college, trying to qualify for the next Summer Olympic Games.
Wait, they have cross country in the Olympics?
They do. Marathon running, half marathon running. Of course, some of the track events bleed over into it too. And with road racing, you can't do it in high school or college because you sometimes get paid with sponsorships depending on how good you are. And usually, if you get paid to do your sport in high school or college, that the league will kick you out. Like NAIA will kick you out because you're not a amateur anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to watch what you do. They want more of a fair competition, if you see what I'm saying. They don't want these 19, 20-year-olds coming out and beating these 26-year-olds. They want it to keep it within a certain age group, kind of.
They don't want no youngsters.
They don't. And I've seen in these type of road races, I've seen all ages, meaning like older ages. Like I've seen people in their 50s, 60s, they still do it and enjoy it. I've seen even people get up early in the morning and they actually practice together, more or less, running. And so there's the big groups of runners across the city usually just get up and go running at a certain place in the city at a certain time in the morning. I mean, it helps you stay more accountable, definitely.
So what kind of training did you do for cross country?
I would say cross country, it's down to one of my old coaches would say it's about 5 core things. I would say he would say it would depend on what you eat. You got to eat healthy. You got to eat right. You can't eat all this bad stuff for you. Like in high school and beginning of college, my high school coach would get us onto a no sweets or carbonation thing. So we wouldn't get any type of candy ever from basically August through November there. Even though I mean, it worked, but I would say more so the no like sodas or Cokes or any of that kind of things. Just drink water and other types of drinks, Gatorade. Just keep on that kind of stuff. That helped us. So I would say eat right, definitely. Don't just eat fast food all the time. Eat healthy foods. Secondly, you got to sleep, meaning you got to get enough hours of sleep. You got 7-8 hours of sleep a night. If you average 5 or 6 hours, it doesn't help your body to heal right. Like specifically, let's just say you have a hard workout in an afternoon practice, like at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then the next day you have a morning practice. So that's a quick turnaround right there from an afternoon to a morning.
Mm-hmm.
And you go in there and try to get like 5-6 hours sleep, that you're not going to be performing good that morning at all.
That's true.
So sleep is a huge thing, I would say. Some people think that's overrated sometimes, but I'm telling you, it will affect how well you do on races and just performing.
Oh yeah, that's exactly the same for lifting weights. You got to get that recuperation time in.
Definitely. Next, I would say stretching. Stretching is a huge thing. If you don't stretch before and after you practice or you have a meet, I would say you're going to pull something. You're going to have tightness.
So so like powerlifting, like we stretch and like we'll do some dynamic stretching, but we don't like you rarely stretch for over 5 to 10 minutes. Like that just doesn't happen a lot. Do you have to stretch more in running just because it's prolonged time? Like you're doing it for a long time?
I would say yes. Stretching is very key. It definitely depends on the weather again. You want to make sure your muscles are loose, especially as it gets colder outside, because it's easier to pull something when it's like 40, 50 degrees outside and you hadn't stretched yet. And part of the stretching is doing a little bit of a warm-up jog before you do your workout.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get your body a little bit accumulated and ready to go for it. I would say you would stretch for 20 minutes before your workout or practice, and then about 10 to 15 minutes afterwards, I would say too. I've seen different people across my life who haven't stretched, and as a result they get injured throughout the season. You may not see that result immediately, but a month and a half, 2 later, they'll come back injured because they're not stretching. And a lot of dynamic stretching, you're right, and a lot of the other types of stretch, a lot of those stretches.
Those static stretches.
Yes, a lot of those too. And next, I would say you got to keep your body up, not just I would say do more on core. Usually a runner doesn't have the strongest arms because their strength doesn't come from their arms. It comes from their legs and I would say the core of their body. Usually runners are skinny people with pretty good core. I mean, I'm not saying they have a big 6-pack, but they have a pretty skinny core.
Well, then most of them got 6-packs, so they don't weigh but $130.
That's true. I mean, 6-packs it looks different on all type of people, obviously, but you have to work on that. You have to do those type of workouts on top of your actual workout from that day of running. I would say separate and apart from your running that day, you would do specific core workouts where your core is getting work, even though your core does get work in your running workouts, but it just helps you get better, I would say, as a runner.
Wait, what are we on? Is that 4?
Yeah, that's
4,
4.
yes. Yeah.
Where's the last one?
And lastly, you got to hydrate.
Yeah.
Hydrate. You got to drink water all the time. I remember in high school, a coach would always say, every time you're walking by a water fountain, you better be taking a drink from it. And I think that holds true. I still do that today, kind of. I don't know. I just like drink it. I like when I see a water fountain, just drink water just because of habit.
Yeah, you thirsty, son.
That's right.
You thirsty.
So what are your thoughts on muscle mass for a runner?
I've seen some pretty muscular teammates before. They try to go to the weight room and add weights and do that kind of stuff. And I think sometimes that can slow you down as a runner. That is good for short distance, like in track. I would say that's good for a 100 or 200 meter runner, because your short distance, you need as much body build as you can, because usually you see those guys, they got a pretty good body build running those type of races. But overall, if you're doing a distance race, I would say trying to build your strength in your arms, like make your arms really big, would not be as good. I mean, your legs definitely need to get strength in your legs, definitely.
So is it, since you don't want a ton of muscle weighing yourself down, do you think getting stronger legs and your legs weighing more, do you think the muscle in your legs would help the more muscle would help in the long distance, or do you think there comes like some point of diminishing returns where it's just not that worth it?
I think it sometimes helps, but I think it also diminishes it. I can't even say the word right.
Diminishes just is. I can't say it either. But I feel like, well, go ahead. Finish your thought. Go ahead.
Yes, so I feel like if you just go in the weight room literally every day, once a week, maybe 5 days a week, and just work legs like all the time, and your legs become like so like jacked and you see like veins popping out, I don't think that's good for a runner.
Yeah, I don't either. I feel like with long distance running, your legs can only get so big to begin with because your body is going to start feeding off of that muscle. Like, I don't think, which we've talked about this before, you can't be in what are the words I'm looking for? Andrew, help me out.
You can't.
Like a hyperbolic and whateverbolic state at the same time. You know what I'm talking about?
Aerobic?
Nah, anyways, you can't burn fat and gain muscle at the same time is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways,
yeah.
I think with long distance running, you'll be burning too much to where you can't really gain but so much muscle mass to begin with. But if you're huge and bulked out going into it, I think, like you were saying, that's detrimental because all your muscles they need more oxygen, which is going to slow you and bog you down.
Definitely.
So one of the things I don't understand is, so you can't so let's say you're a cross country runner and you want to get faster. So the option is not to put on a bunch of leg muscle and do a bunch of squats and build up your quads and hamstrings. I mean, I'm sure you can a little bit, but like we said, you're long distance running, so it's not going to help a ton. So like, if you can't improve muscular, like can't get a whole lot stronger and don't want to gain a bunch of muscle, then how do you get faster necessarily? Like, do you? I mean, obviously you can practice your form in running.
Yes. I mean, I would say hitting the weight room is still a big thing. Really good athletes do. If you're a really good runner, I'd say keeping those muscles toned. Like don't overwork them, obviously, but keep them in shape. But making a good runner better, I would say, to keep on running longer distance, put in lots of miles a week. Think about this. Across a week's time period, most average good runners put in 80 miles a week.
80 miles?
60 to 80 miles a week.
Good night.
That's over 10 a day.
Yeah.
Wait, do you risk injury? Like, do you risk injury if you go that far?
80 miles is for, like, the really, really, like, D1 type good athletes. So it would more so lean towards the 60 and 70 range. But sometimes you do risk injury. That's why you work your way up. I would say, start at 20 miles a week and then work your way up from there. I know a friend who did consecutive 100-mile weeks in a summertime before.
Shoo.
Wait, did they go to free?
They did.
Who was it?
It was Adam.
Oh, yeah, he works pretty tough.
Yeah, so he did consecutive 100-mile weeks. But I would say you don't need to be doing that throughout the whole season. But I would say you need to do that especially during the summertime. Summertime is a big part of your training. I haven't discussed that yet. So in the summer,
that's off season, right? Summertime?
Well, summertime, a lot of people claim summertime is go time, meaning that's basically in season, even though you're not literally having a meet because schools are out and everything, but you train on your own. I would say from mid-June to till August, that's a big part of your training for your cross-country season. So if you have a bad summer, you're not going to have as good of a season because you got to have a good core and good foundation built up as you come back in August for your college or your school. Some schools, it depends on your location. If it's all local, I'm sure they do summer workouts. It just depends on how schools are run, if it's local or regional. But definitely summer workouts are a big thing. I mean, cross-country running is just running in general for college is almost a year-round thing. I would say most cross-country athletes do track. And
yeah, that's true.
It's just how it is. If your school has a track. And when I say track, I mean they do indoor track too. Usually indoor track season is from the beginning of December to the end of February. So basically you do cross-country from, August to November. You do indoor from December to February. And then in March, you do track until the end of May. Outdoor track till end of May. So almost a year-round type sport of competition-wise too, if you count indoor and outdoor track.
Yeah, that seems pretty tough. That seems pretty harsh.
Yeah, where in the summer months of June and July and the beginning of August, you don't have literally much competition at all. But those 3 months of your year are probably the most pivotal months, because if you do nothing across those 3 months and then try to come back in mid-August, then you're setting yourself up for a not as good season because you're having to spend that time to build up your body where you should have been doing that earlier in the summertime.
I feel like a lot of running has to do with strengthening your heart and your lungs.
Definitely. Your lung capacity is a big thing. I haven't talked about swimming. I've been places where they do swim workouts once a week, obviously depending on weather, if it's going to be indoor or outdoor. But swimming helps a lot with lung capacity and that kind of thing in your heart.
So is it just like doing laps in the pool or like holding your breath underwater?
Yeah, I mean laps in the pool, breath underwater. I've seen it where people bring in weights, and you have these weights tied to your body, either on your feet or around your hip or weight. There's like some waist weights
Yeah.
where you put it around your waist, and that really works it too.
Man.
Where you're in the water. Think about this: you have it tied to your waist, and you're treading water. You're trying to get your form right. That's a good place where you can try to get the form.
Wait,
And
so you're running? You're running in water?
You're running in the water with a weight thing around your waist.
Oh.
That definitely helps lung, heart capacity. It fixes form sometimes too.
So what is good running form? What does that mean? What does that consist of?
Good running form. So usually your left leg and right arm should be going forward at the same time, and the same thing with your left arm and your right leg. So if you are having the same side of your body, arm and leg, going up at the same time, then you're doing it wrong. That's bad.
Wait, you're doing it wrong if you have your left arm and your right leg up?
No, I'm saying if you have both, like if you have left arm and left leg up
Oh.
at the same time, like if you have one side of your body up at the same time, that you're doing it wrong.
Man, I don't even know how I run.
So your upper body and your lower body wants to alternate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And usually a good runner has his arms at 90 degrees.
90 degrees to what? Like his elbows at 90?
Yeah, elbow is 90. That's perfect form, to be honest. So usually in races you see people with 90-degree angles at the beginning of a race, but as you go along in a race, you get tired, so you lose the angle there on your arm, and your angle loosens up, so you come sometimes up to a 45 or 30-degree angle, which is not as good because it is not helping you move as faster.
So is it like is it that way? Is it 90 degrees because it's like aerodynamic, or is it just?
Yeah, it's more aerodynamic. Get the most out of your body.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
So what about your feet? Like, are you supposed to run on the ball of your foot, right? Or is it the heel?
Yes. It depends on your type of event. Like, I would say cross country running versus track running. You try to run on the ball of your feet for track, definitely, because just how track spikes are made and how track surfaces are. You're running on the balls of your feet because it's shorter distance. But for cross country, since it's longer distance, you run on the heel, basically. Heel, because if you try to run on your balls of your feet, then you would get tired easier. You see what I'm saying? Like the form, because your front toes of your leg, think about that, can probably not hold that type of running form for that long of a time period.
Yeah, so you just kind of spike your heels.
Yeah. So it's more heel to foot. That's what usually is, heel and then rest of foot. That's what I was always taught. And usually when just talking about the rest of the body, you're usually standing straight up. You're not hunched over one way or another, front or back, hunched over front or back. But as races go on, people start hunching over, and that's when you can tell they're tired. I've seen it before where some people look like they're about to fall down. They're so far hunched over because they're so tired in the middle of a race.
Huh. Interesting. So if you run on your heel most of the time, do you switch to the ball of your foot towards the end to like get more, I don't know, speed?
Yes, I would say you would. You kick. Yeah, that's what you basically call it. You kick in the last so many, depending on where you're at. It just depends on some races where you kick at. I would say you want to kick at a certain point where you have enough left in you. You don't want to leave something there at the end of the race. I know I've been there before at a race where I've kicked and then I crossed the finish line and I had a little more left in me.
Mm-hmm.
Where I should have kicked maybe a few hundred meters before that. So it's sometimes hard to know when to kick at the end of a race.
That's interesting.
All right, I got the most important question of the whole podcast. What's your favorite running shoe?
Whoa. He's
Wow.
rocking those Nikes.
It's a hard choice. I mean, Nike does make some good ones. I'm a big Asics guy, specifically because I have wider feet, so I'm not like most runners. So most people don't have to deal with wide feet. So Asics build good shoes for my wide feet.
Okay.
A lot of new runners or the runners of today, they try to get some of the coolest looking shoes out there. They always look for color. Sometimes you got to come up with the right style. You know, when you're running, you got to have those cool color shoes. When those people look at you, be like, man, those shoes are cool. So a lot of guys nowadays depends on color, I would say also.
Oh. Do they make any cross-country running shoes that light up when you stomp the ground?
They don't make no kid shoe, nothing like those kid shoes or anything.
Oh,
that'd be funny.
I
need to make a shoe for the collegiate athlete that glows when you smack
all
it
that
on the ground.
technology though, weigh your foot down.
No,
You gotta be light.
I'll make it light.
Okay.
Hey, do they make those shoes like at a certain angle to where it makes running on the heel easier?
Yes. I mean, running shoes are different from most type of shoes. You can't run in basketball shoes now. I mean, I've seen it happen, but people don't know what they're doing when they're running in basketball shoes because they're not fit for your heels. And same thing with if you try to play basketball or other sports like that in running shoes, that's not good for you. It'll create more shin splints within you because in basketball you're jumping up and down a whole lot. Running, you're not jumping up and down, so shoes aren't built for jumping up and down a lot. Built for more other type of movement within your leg.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because anytime I've played like basketball or something in tennis shoes, running shoes, I'll like turn my ankle.
Yeah, but they say that happens a lot to anybody. But yeah, speaking of technology, you were talking about just saying about technology running shoes. A lot of modern day technology is in the running chips. So a lot of races nowadays, you can look up times on the internet within the last 5 years. So I would say most of my college career, this has come along where we have either race chips where we tie them to our shoes with some straps, tie them to before the race, and they have our name on them and everything. So when you run across the finish line, you run across these mats and it automatically records your time. Or you have chips built into your actual number that you put on your jersey.
That's really cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wait, does it track? What's it track? Your time overall, or?
Yes. I mean, it'll track your time overall, and it'll help the placing for the race too, like what place you got. Because In cross country, I haven't discussed this yet. The scoring is interesting in cross country. So cross country is kind of like golf. The lowest score wins usually for a team. You're trying to get the lowest amount of points. So you have seven. You usually have 7 runners compete, or 7. No, you have 7 runners that usually score in your meet. The rest of your runners don't score in your meet usually. So you have 7 that score, 5 that are actually used for the score. The 6th and 7th are used for ties if ties happen.
Okay.
So let's just say you're trying to get the lowest score here. So obviously you want to win the race. So the first place person would only get 1 point versus if you got 10th place, you'd get 10 points. So you're trying to get the lowest score possible for your team. I've seen it come down though before to the 7th runner, so they've had to double ties like that and gone down to the 7th runner, and it's been decided for a race before. But that is very uncommon to see that.
Wow.
Yeah. Most people don't understand cross-country scoring. They just think, top 10 people, they just think that usually. But it's more than that. It's a lot more strategy. I'd say that if you're trying to win a race as a team, it usually depends more on your 4th or 5th runner. I mean, your front runner's going to get all the hype and everything. Everyone's going to be paying attention to him, but everyone should be paying attention to the other ones back behind it, trying to see what place they're in and seeing if they need to pass other teams to get places.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of sports I think people don't realize are scored by team that seem like they're individual sports, like wrestling or gymnastics. I'm pretty sure track is the same way where it's a team score.
Yes. In track, it's a whole lot more variety, though, because you have all these field events with discus, shot put, long jump, high jump. So in track, it's the highest score wins. So it's the opposite for track and cross country. So you're trying to get it's lowest score wins, sorry, and also in track. So you're trying to win all these events. But in track, it's so cool. You have all these different kind of athletes. So you have like football type players or weightlifting type players throw for you. And then you also have like basketball athletes who are sprinters for you. And then you have your long distance people from cross country that help you with long distance. So it's really more a variety of an effort in track.
So you win the whole. So track, do you win the whole like track meet as a whole, or are you winning events?
I mean, it's a mix of both. You do win your event, but you also you can win the meet. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just depends on your program. If your program's big enough to compete to win the meet, because you got to have a good probably 50, 60 people program to compete year in, year out in track. If you have about 30 or 40 people, I would say that would be hard to compete on a team level, just more on an event basis.
So do you have like I guess track has like kind of this team atmosphere. So like, is there like a team captain, team leader?
Yes, usually there is a team captain, team leader. I mean, it's usually not appointed in our types of sports. It's usually the person who earns it along the way. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
You come in as a freshman, and you can tell if someone's a leader or not just depending on the way they act and how they do and practice and everything. So I say it's more so not just someone picking a team captain every year. It's more so the actual athletes that are there who's stepping up and who's not, and who actually. I mean, you may say, "Hey, this guy's team captain." Nobody will listen to him because, he's not actually trying in practice. He's not actually caring about the team. So that's the bad thing about saying, "Hey, this guy's team captain," when you really don't know.
You gotta put some respect on someone's name.
Definitely.
Put some respect on my name.
All right, Birdman. Slow down.
Well, this is pretty insightful.
Yeah, man.
I learned some stuff, and I roomed with you for I don't know how long.
Definitely. There's always a lot to learn in running. Not many people, try to follow it. I mean, they see who wins races. They're like a few weeks ago was the New York Marathon. That's always here in October. And the Boston Marathon's always in April. I mean, those are two big marathons a year people try to follow, like nationwide. And then every 4 years you pay attention to the Olympics. So those are the only three things that nationwide we try to look at. So most average Americans don't know much about actual cross-country running or track as much.
Yeah, well, don't worry. It's like that for powerlifting.
So I'm about to put you on the spot, Noah. What's your best 3 and 5 mile times?
Oh, man. Put me on the spot now. My best 3 mile time, which that was more in high school and everything. So it was in the 18s. So it was 18 something, mid 18s.
Okay.
So
That's real good. I did that for 1 mile yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, it's all right. Usually in high school. So good for a 3 mile or 5K type would be really good would be 17s, low 17s, 16s.
Okay.
Those type of. So I would say I was about middle of the pack, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But for 5 mile, I don't know. I was right around 30 minutes, which that was at the back. I mean, so middle of the pack is from in college 5 mile race I would say from 29 to 31. That's the middle pack, and I was at the end of a middle of the pack. I would say in college, high school to college is a whole lot different. Like 3 versus 5 miles. A whole lot different. So a really good runner in college would be running 25s, 26s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, man, that's way better than I'll ever do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot of, as I said, mental toughness there.
Yeah, I think I'm just fat.
That's a lot of Americans. So.
Well, Noah, are you still running today?
I do run occasionally, not as much as I used to. I want to get back into running all the time. I still like it. So after I got done competing, I was like, I got to take a little time off because as I was telling you how treacherous the year is for a runner. I mean, from cross country to indoor track, you usually take off 2 weeks, and then you do indoor track. And then from indoor to outdoor track, you take off 2 weeks. So you see what I'm saying? It's usually the only times you ever take off is in 2 week increments ever.
Right.
In your years of running. So I was like, I'm so tired of this. So I took a while off there. So
Yeah, man.
I definitely still enjoy running. I like it. I want to compete, as I said, in road races, all these other type of fun runs. Like I've never done any of these glow in the dark races, or there's sometimes like around Halloween zombie races or Christmas type races. I've seen it where for a Christmas one where they try to eat milk and cookies in the middle of a 5K out.
We have a Krispy Kreme run around here. It's I'm trying to think of what it is. It's like you run a mile, eat 6 donuts or something, and then try to run back and eat another 6, and then your third mile, you try to make it. Yeah. It's something crazy like that.
Yeah. That's a cool thing about not being in college or high school anymore. I can do those fun type of races, and it won't affect me at all, really. So that's why I'm going to probably be doing a whole lot more of those in the future.
Well, Noah, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you all for having me.
The big Kahuna coming in. He's coming in strong and he's coming in hot. You go catch him as a mascot. The hot sign is on right now on Krispy Kreme. And the big Kahuna's feeding donuts to everybody. The 6-mile race, the big Kahuna Donut Challenge. You heard it here first, people. Run right, run on your heel, run on the balls of your toes. Ask the big Kahuna for his cell phone number. Get an autograph from the big Kahuna. And let him know that you appreciate him and that you love him. That's all for this episode. We at it.
We out.
Don't forget the IBP Carolina Christmas Classic Push-Pull in Spartanburg, South Carolina on December 8th. For more information about the competition, please visit ironboypowerlifting.com. Please subscribe and thank you for listening. Be sure to follow @CheckMyTotal on Instagram for all the latest updates.
Man, hey, I'm actually going to get to meet you in person now with Andrew getting married.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Whenever that will be.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, man, all I'm saying is if you're getting married in the summer, try to do it indoors.
Oh, I mean, our wedding's indoors no matter what. It's at the church.
Okay, well, good. Shoo.
But let me tell you right now, I ain't dealing with the heat. I ain't dealing with the cold, and I ain't dealing with the rain.